Coach, a game of two halves in very many ways. The first half was just absolutely, the first quarter was scintillating, 7 goals after about the 5-minute mark, but then unfortunately let the Dragons back in and went from leading for the majority of the game to unfortunately losing by 3 points.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a one that we need to digest and learn from. Sometimes actually in footy you can learn more from a close agonising loss than you can from a close agonising win. So yeah, that's just a bit of a test for us all as an organisation to how we get the message through to our boys, because I thought that the messages we learned from the game against Geelong last week were very apparent today, and I thought some very clear signs both during the week of training and in game day today about us responding to some very strong feedback and good messages, and we responded today really well to some of those key things.
And we mentioned marks last week as one of the big areas where we were down. I think it was 53 marks last week and 4 inside forward 50. Up until half-time day we had 9 marks inside forward 50 and 100 for the day. So
that's right.
Boys really responded in that KPI.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that to me is what I keep saying. It's a reinforcement of our game style. So it's, to me, the encouraging thing is against a top 2 or top 3 team that our game style stood up really well. What we've got to continue is refine that, play it at close to our best for longer, and just then say, okay, when we go away from our style of play, why is that? That's the crucial thing to learn.
And we found that out, unfortunately, in the second half as well, where the KPIs just dropped off a little bit, and it just shows how important those KPIs are to win a game of football, because they dropped off, Dragons got on top, kicked the goal with a minute to go, and it was all over.
That's right, yeah. And really, when you think about it, the Dragons kicked the first 2 goals for the game, and they've kicked the last 2. Now, they've probably only, I think they've kicked 13. Well, 4 of those were probably within the first 4 or 5 minutes, or the last 4. So in about 8 minutes of play at the very start of the game, at the end of the game, they've kicked 4 of their 13 goals. So we've still got to work on the fact that we can get scored quickly against us, and we've got to look at as to why that happens.
We don't normally individualise, but today there was a fantastic individual effort. Jordan Johnston, 7 goals today, 7 goals won on the day, the biggest haul this year, and just his breakout TAC Cup performance. Yeah,
I would have thought so. Yeah. It's interesting when you use a term like that, because it's amazing what sort of progress a player can make with his own belief as a result of playing at an excellent level like Jordan played today. What I've been really pleased about, and full marks to Ricky Andrews, his forward line coach, is that Jordan early in the year wasn't reliable, and nor was he confident with his set shots. And yet today his set shot kicking technique was fantastic. So it's a really good example of supportive coaching, finding solutions to a problem, and that can be, missing goals or whatever the problem might be, working through it to find a solution. And we saw today a high quality performance from a boy who really wants to learn and get better.
Sets up for a really interesting game next week against the Western Jets. It's a home game, but it's at Stawell. It's our regional game for the year. Obviously, we come off this kind of loss, something to galvanise the team, but also the Jets travel to Morwell this week, then travel out to Stawell next week. So hoping that obviously that travel works into our advantage a little bit.
Yeah, it was interesting listening to the AFL coaches even this week starting to talk about, okay, if you've come off a bye, or are you better off for a bit of a spell, or are you better off continuing to play? Is there a travel factor or whatever? Bottom line is it'll all be measured at probably about 4 o'clock next Sunday. So, but yeah, we set ourselves up in this 2-week phase, the Geelong Falcons and the Sandringham Dragons, to say, come on, we want to test ourselves against the best. Today, for very, very long periods of time, we were better than the Dragons. We've lost the game, but we'll go away knowing that we can match it with the best teams in this competition with our game style, provided we continue to play our game style better for longer periods of time.
Some really good signs today. Unfortunately, not the scoreboard at the end, but we put that behind us and we go into next week and hope to get the points against the Jets.
Well, we do what we did against Geelong, and then say, okay, what's the learnings now? How do we actually get better? Because that's the challenge for the competition, it's a challenge for us as a coaching group, it's a challenge for the playing group, and it's a challenge for each individual. how do you get better? Because that's what you need to do.
Looking forward to next Sunday already, Coach. Thanks for that.
Okay then. No worries, Sean.